Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing you insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide you with an actionable perspective on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Hi, everyone. This is Ruby Powers, your host and companion through the ever-evolving landscape of law practice management. Welcome to Power Up Your Practice. Each episode, we get to hear from guests about their superpowers and perspectives on reaching success. And today, we have a really special episode because we're going to be talking with individual lawyers who attended the ABA Tech Show in February 2024. And I was able to find a lot of great people who I visited with while I was there and pull from them. We want to talk about our big takeaways, especially for those who weren't there or weren't able to go to every single thing, which is pretty much all of us because there's so much going on at ABA Tech Show. It's hard to be everywhere all at the same time. And we all take away something different. So this is our first episode. We have a lot of guests. I'm super excited to have you all. And why don't we just go around and just introduce yourselves and what your name, firm, and where you're coming from. We have quite a variety of geographic location representation. Why don't you start, Michele?
My name is Michele Carney. I am from Seattle, Washington, and am with Carney and Markey.
And Beau?
My name is Beau Atkins, CEO of Evolve Law in Canada. Originally from Calgary, but now in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, right up the middle.
Charina, do you?
Yeah, hi. I'm Charina Garcia. I'm the Strategy and Innovation Partner at WR Immigration, and I'm either based in the San Francisco Bay Area or Honolulu, Hawaii, depends on the month.
Nice.
Oh, that sounds good. Wow. I mean, no offense to Canada. Elizabeth.
Okay, I'm sitting in 33-degree weather in Chicago, so I am also jealous of that schedule. My name is Elizabeth Rompf Bruenm. I have my own firm in Chicago, Delgado Rompf Bruenm LLC. We were super excited to host everyone here in Chicago for the tech conference, and it was nice to see you all there.
Yes, and you told us where to go to get some good pizza. That was my first pizza ever. So you did a good job on that.
Priority.
And Ruby Powers, straight right from Houston, Texas, where we are in the middle of rodeo, Texas Hold'em, Beyonce territory. So anyway, and spring break. Well, so I know you all from different things, either through the American Immigration Lawyers Association, Innovation Technology Committee, or something, all of the above, or through just mutual interest in law practice management and technology and all of the above. So let's see. We had the tech show. It was in Chicago in February. It was a little chilly, especially for this Texas girl here. And we went from, what was that, like Wednesday to Saturday or something like that, with the Startup Alley that first night, and then 60 tips in 60 minutes with some workshops towards the end. And a lot of different social events in the evenings and private events or ABA Tech Show events as well. And then there were a lot of panels and tracks. So why don't what are some of the big themes? I think I have a few in mind, but just let's go ahead and chime in. What's one of the big takeaways that you had, or a theme that you saw that you were sort of intrigued about or shocked about?
For me, it was, I think that the subscription fee model was a huge thing for me. And also, the other thing is that it seems like AI has really taken off over the past year, and that a lot of attorneys are using some form of AI or another. I think that a lot of people are using ChatGPT just to do general research, and I just see that there potentially might be a lot of ethical issues because I'm not sure that a lot of people are using paid versions, closed-end systems for AI. So when I left there, I kind of got a little uneasy feeling that it's great, but it could be an ethical one in mine.
And that's a good point, Michele. You've been on the ethics panels and committees. You've written and spoken a lot about the ethical consequences or things to consider in technology. So I know that you bring that perspective to our panel, to our discussion today. Thank you for mentioning that.
Of course.
Charina, what was one of your big takeaways?
So this was the second ABA Tech Show I went to, and technology can change a lot in a year. It was really interesting to see, I went to one of the first panels where they talked about the history of the ABA Tech Show and how back then, the internet was coming, and now it's AI is coming. And it's really interesting. I went around the expo hall and spoke to a lot of the AI companies. And one of my observations was it's such a new space. A lot of these companies I'm talking to about integrating AI into our workflow, they're startups. Many of them just started last year and just got their initial round of funding. And so when I talk to our other managing partners about bringing AI into the picture, they're worried about who we partner with because they're concerned that are they going to be here next year still, right? And I think that's one of the interesting things about delving into AI. And to Michele's point, I did meet with one vendor, and everything is on your local server, or you manage the entire data that's contained, and then they build out the system for you. So that was really interesting, and that's probably one way that I would want to go to consider all the ethics of it all.
I think that's a really good point. I've been shocked at the last few conferences I've been to where the company came up with the idea in less than the calendar year, and they're already at the expo hall, and they don't have a finished product, and they don't really have the fees. And I'm just like, wow, these are the new rules. We can do that now. No, I agree.
Difference between can and should.
Yeah. Beau, what was one of your takeaways or themes?
Well, this was my fifth tech show, so I felt like a vet walking through the expo hall, and my main job as sort of the leader of my office was to connect with our vendors. We have probably about 6 or 7, probably 7 or 8 vendors throughout. So connecting with those people, making sure that I can relay some of the problems or issues or suggestions my team has. And it was really cool to just really dedicate my time to that. But probably one of the big takeaways was seeing the Canadian representation on the Startup Alley, 4 out of 15 being from Vancouver. That was pretty cool.
I just thought everybody was Canadian. It's sort of like the actors, they're all Canadian, and then you're like, every once in a while you realize that, I don't know.
You guys always take them though. They no longer identify as Canadian.
What am I supposed to say? Yeah, there are a lot of Canadians in this tech legal space. Elizabeth, what were some of your takeaways or the big ones?
I think for me, whenever I attend tech conferences, for me, technology always is an opportunity. And so I'm always thinking about what the pain points are in my practice at the moment, or where I think my opportunities for growth are. And I kind of narrow in on either vendors or programming that fits that need. And a couple of things I thought of. There have been years that I've just gone to the expo, and I'm actually surprised at how much you can learn just going to the expos. It's something I wanted to mention to people that may not want or have the time to invest in the full conference. It's still worthwhile to walk around and talk. As Beau was saying, there's so many people there, and I've learned a lot just talking to the vendors about what opportunities are present. I think, to Michele's point, you have to be careful that you're vetting appropriately and thinking through all the ethics of changes you make. And in that way, I think the programming is more helpful because I think the experts are kind of laying out sort of the pros and cons of different paths. But the two I spent the most time on, Michele brought up one of them, sort of how we bill, how we think about billing, how we change the way we think about billing in this new environment. And then second, small firm marketing. So I'm at the point right now where my firm's rebuilding its website and rebuilding its social media platforms. And so that's at the forefront of my mind. So I spent a lot of time on that. But for me, I grew up in a firm that billed by the hour, and I know that's on its way out. And so it's a way for me, it was great to kind of sit down with people that are thinking about different ways of billing and flat fees and also subscription models to sort of think through, how do I make adjustments so that I'm still billing for the worth of the work that I do, despite the fact that timing myself is no longer a very good indicator of that worth. That was kind of how I spent most of my time anyway.
I think my big three takeaways were, one, about the billing aspect, sort of like the death of the billable hour and the intrigue in a lot of us are immigration attorneys on this panel, but on this podcast, but flat fees really common in immigration, and also the intrigue in subscription. And then the second one was just AI everywhere. It seemed like if it was a rarity for a panel to not touch AI, I would happen to be on two of them, but I mean, we still mentioned it somehow. Like most of the panels had, and in fact, there was a lot of overlap, people said, between the panels. And then I think third was just sort of like what Charina was saying about Expo Hall and the tech companies. Like there's a lot of movement happening, and I think there's a lot of consolidation happening amongst legal tech companies, and sort of like so that one company can have all the pieces from CRM to case management to billing and time to everything all in one. And so we're sort of seeing that evolution happening. Those were some of my big takeaways. And Beau, is your family law firm flat fee?
Yeah, so we started in 2020 and we've never charged for a second of time. So I've got 3 attorneys and an articling student who don't know the concept of tracking their time because they started with my office. They've never billed an hourly rate. So that was very important. When I started my office, I wanted to completely get rid of the concept of attaching time to our fees, largely because it's so unpredictable. When clients come to lawyers, they're looking for certainty. That's the thing that they're buying. No matter what lawyer you're going to, you're looking for some sort of peace of mind or certainty. And I found that when I was billing by the hour, I was failing to deliver certainty when it came at the very first instance or first opportunity, which was my fees. And so that's something we're really proud of, and we've heavily invested in figuring out a way to make it work.
I think that's a good point about heavily invested in figuring out how to make it work. That's where a lot of firms need to get to be able to figure that out, to make it profitable, to still be able to pay the bills, like, and if you were to not do it hourly, but you have to be organized. What were you going to say? Go ahead, Michele.
I was going to say that I think that why subscription fee was popular, and I believe, was it Altfee who won the Kane Award? One of the higher awards, was because I think right now a lot of us are giving away some services without a cost, and how do you recapture those costs? But at the same time, consumers are going to demand that you provide more efficient, more affordable services. So if your fees are going to go down, I think the subscription fee is how you recapture that. And I just wanted to say something about what Elizabeth had said. with the marketing and AI. I think that we're going to see SEO companies really having a hard time making it work because, first of all, they're so expensive. And secondly, AI can do, I think, just as good a job, if not better, because you can really tweak it the way you want it, as opposed to, having somebody do it for you that may not necessarily understand your area of law. So I see that as a big place for AI in a law firm.
Elizabeth or Charina, feel free to chime in, anybody. There was a lot between the depth of the billable hour. How do we get ourselves organized like Beau has, to just be flat or subscription? And then, how do we equip our firms to leverage AI, but ethically? And, and how do we really look at, I think a big point is, how do we look to better serve our clients? And I think, honestly, a lot of times we forget to think about the point of view from our client's perspective so often. And I think that's a part of the conversation.
Yeah, I came back to the firm after it was over because my head was kind of spinning and I was trying to think about how do we incorporate some of these ideas. And I sat down with our full staff and said, can you all help me make a list of what's important to our clients, like in order, so that I can think about what is our worth in this new area. And so they started talking about things like communication, help with online systems, because a lot of our clients, and that it's across the board. It doesn't, even our clients that use computers all the time still are struggling with our government systems in the immigration realm because they are not intuitive and they often have problems. And so we just made a list. And so to me, that kind of became our new KPIs, right? If it's not going to be time, this is what it's going to be. And looking at, I kind of got into a little debate with some of the panelists about flat fees. And I said, I don't see how this works in immigration. It's a completely unpredictable area. The processing times in one type of work that I do have quadrupled in the last year. So now these are cases and risk that I'm taking on for 4 times as long than I anticipated at the beginning. And so, the compromise we sort of came up to in this debate was a flat fee at the beginning, because that's when I do the majority of my work, and a subscription that follows that talks about certain things. Maybe that's a monthly or bi-monthly update on the case, changing, and updating addresses, tracking case, the case strategy, whether it needs to change. And that's the worth of that subscription. So I think those are the things we have to think about. What is it our clients still need from us in this brand new world that has so much available to them online and with AI's assistance?
So when I got back from the tech show, we started looking at our workflows and where we could actually automate and utilize AI. And we're in the middle of the H-1B registration period. And we have thousands of applications to register or individuals to register. And last week, our folks came up with a way that we could actually register them in bulk, right, without having to manually enter, and utilizing a Chrome extension, which I didn't even know we could do. And it's beautiful. So we started doing it. I had one of my team members test it out on Friday, and there were bugs and stuff, and we were working with some of the developers on it. And then we were able to deploy it probably starting today and get all our clients registered. So basically what it does is it enters the system into the USCIS system. And then my team still has to go in and vet it and check it, and then work with the clients to make sure everything is accurate and submit it. But the process of actually manually entering the data is gone, because we have it all in our database. And so it just shoots it over to the USCIS site, enters all the registration information, and when my team and I heard about this, that they had created, it was a huge time saver, because on top of having to register, we also have hundreds of applications we have to file before the filing fees go up. And so just thinking about staffing and how do you staff. And when I was walking around the expo, I noticed a lot of virtual assistants, or if you need it's sometimes really hard for smaller firms, because I ran my own firm for 15 years, to even find legal help and how you can contract immigration contractors to help you with your brief writing or things like that. So that was really interesting too at the expo. It was also, where do you find some staffing help as well, which was really helpful too.
Or like one day there'll be autonomous agents who will really be just AI agents, whether that is a lawyer AI agent or, you know, an assistant, a non-lawyer assistant.
And so Beau, you said you've been to 5, and Charina, I think you said you've been to 2, and I started coming in 2019. I think I missed one during 2020 when I was running for office. But for the most part, just I remember when there was a demo of AI back in 2019, and we were all like crowded in the room and just like, oh my gosh, wow. You know, and they had like copied some tweets of anyway, it was something in the news, and they were doing an analysis of the person's personality and doing, I don't know, we were just like flabbergasted. And then last year it was all about ChatGPT, yay, okay, what's this, okay, and then LLM and all that stuff. And then this year it was like, it was everything, and just, and everybody in the expo hall, AI, everything is, there's AI in everything we're selling you. And it was like the buzzword. But I sort of came away sort of overwhelmed because of, it was, you know, Beau, you had shared a podcast with Richard Susskind on something you had seen, and I actually listened to that, and just really that blew my mind, because I was just like, what's the future of professions and the future of law? With basically the concept was like, before we had silos of information, we'd pass it from one person to the next, but now a lot of this information is readily available. People are doing things on their own. They're maybe coming to lawyers like just to finalize things or confirm, or when it's super complicated. And I just sort of this whole discussion about between the rules we have as lawyers and the tools we have are changing. The rules are not changing fast enough, but our clients, their appetite for how to consume this information is rapidly changing. One of the big panels I remember from a year or two ago was just look to other industries to see what's happening, and how I think it was Jack Newton and Kimberly Bennett were on, what was one on those, and it was just like how do other industries communicate with clients or with their customers, and like it was about the Domino food pizza tracker, or how the IRS has a tracker for when you're going to get your refund. And just I think there's a lot of ways we can learn from other industries. But I mean, that's awesome that Charina, Elizabeth, you found ways to think, how can we think about improving the experience with our clients? And I think that needs to be part of the conversation as well, in just terms of how do we leverage AI to better serve and sort of reduce that access to justice gap that exists.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, you have Elizabeth talking about KPIs and sitting down talking about what the clients want, Charina talking about workflows and things like that. That represents a pretty big shift from where law firms used to think, which is just they would be presumptuous on what clients wanted. They want this big fancy boardroom. And they want this nice oak mahogany. Nobody wanted that. The lawyer might have wanted that, or the top 2% of clients might have wanted that, just to feel like they had the highest billing and charging lawyer in the city. But it was almost like I remember when I started, it was like all lawyers were aiming to get to that, which isn't actually feeding any of the clients' needs or wants. So it's nice to see that shift, and a shift more into the business, recognizing that we're running a business. We have to be efficient. We have to deliver what clients want. We have to, when I started my first law office, I didn't know what KPI meant. I had to Google it in the middle of a board meeting once, which kind of embarrassing to think about now, that I was running a business not knowing those types of terms. But it's really exciting to see that shift.
Don't you feel, though, that as AI progresses and as more systems are built out specifically for lawyers that are going to be closed and will only collaborate within a certain fish pond, that the information that actually will become available to consumers will still be behind an iron curtain that's only available to lawyers? There'll still be public information, but just like a paid subscription to Westlaw or Lexis, it's going to become more and more selective or harder for just the average consumer to get, just because of the confidentiality issues and lawyers using closed-end systems. So I just think
yeah,
access to briefs and things like that won't be available to the general public.
I think on that, I think the jury is literally out right now. When we look at the litigation going on right now between Ross AI and Thomson Reuters, if that turns in Ross's favor, that's going to open up the law so that it is available to consumers, not just to lawyers. If some of those companies maintain that stronghold, I do think that unfortunately there will be a bit of an access to justice issue for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing I thought a lot about, I mean, in Chicago, we've had an influx of migrants coming up from the southern border this past year and a half. And a lot of us are part of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And I've kind of led Chicago's group that's addressing it for ALA. And one thing that I thought a lot about as far as access to justice is how do we harness these types of technologies to serve more people that aren't able to afford attorneys. And, just our clinics here in Chicago started out with paper and pen, and everybody at a table working with individual pro bonos and volunteers that came in to help fill out applications. And, we've now worked to build out our own software that answers all people answer the questions, it produces all the forms and packets, and then attorneys can review them. And it's made everything a lot more efficient, and we're able to see a lot more people in the same amount of time. And so, I also think we can hopefully balance some of those access issues by using it to also serve people that aren't going to end up with the private firms that are building out their own systems. So I hope that attitude in the nonprofit sector and the government sector will continue, where we recognize that just like it can make my law firm or your law firm more efficient, it can also make the work we do in the clinical settings more efficient as well.
And I also think it's access to information and transparency. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can really leverage automation. Because what I find is with our clients, immigration law, it's a very nerve-wracking environment. But if they can, if they're waiting for a table at the restaurant, they could go on their app and see exactly where their case is at and whether we actually filed it or not. I think that helps them in terms of just the access to the information and making sure it's all available to them at their fingertips, rather than the unknown of, behind the curtain of like, did the attorney file it yet? Where is this at? Do you have everything you need? And so we, at our firm, we've built out a system where there's full transparency so that we can help out our partners, which are the HR managers, so that they're not constantly on the phone telling them, okay, yeah, let me check with the lawyers to find out where your case is at. And so we're actually empowering the consumer in terms of the employees to actually gather the information and understand it. So like, for example, we had one client say, the employees come to me all the time and we're a small place and I'm the only person here. Can you train them how to use your system so they can actually just go in? And so we're having training sessions. So you have to remember who's the end user and how do you educate them as well on your new technology. It's not enough that you roll it out, but you actually have to spend the time training even your clients on how to utilize it fully.
Yeah, and I think also to add to that and respond to what you were saying, Michele, I think the reality is that the obstacles to becoming a lawyer are so much less now, or at least to starting your own office. I've got a whole wall of old books that are nothing but decoration. And I got them basically for free because nobody uses them anymore. Back in the day, and we're only talking 20, 25 years ago, you needed to either have a library or you were operating inefficiently by having to go to a library. When I started my office, I didn't need a library. I needed access to the internet. Now you don't need a receptionist. You could potentially leverage one of these virtual options. And I think as it gets more and more efficient, the practice of law will be more and more competitive as law becomes more of a commodity. And as that happens, that's going to drive prices down. We'll be able to serve more clients, take less time doing so. And those who are charging by the hour aren't going to be able to justify what they're charging their clients. And they're going to have to build in the same efficiencies their competitors are.
I agree with you. And when I started my firm in 09, like, I think that was at a time when the barrier to entry was not as great as it used to be. It was sort of like a change in big law, and you really just needed internet and a computer and like a little bit of knowledge of what you were doing. But you're right. And I think one thing that was going to that concept of what are other industries doing, like Charina, you were talking about like that maybe portal or letting a client know where they are in the process. That's what like Amazon, you know where the package is, you know what truck it's on, you know when it's going to arrive, you know, you get a picture when it shows up in your doorstep, you know, like just our consumers want stuff like that because they're getting it in other areas. And so that's why the whole look to other industries and what Elizabeth is doing, like really evaluating what do clients want, what do they value. Like, I think I heard someone say like what we consider value that could be so simple for us to do might be super valuable for a client, but we spend a lot of time on and effort might not really be considered much value to our client. And so I think that going and doing an evaluation of value to the client and also what it takes to produce on our end, and sort of looking through that start to finish their journey, a client's journey through a firm, would be a great practical exercise. And then you can add in the technology to be more efficient and to provide that communication and sort of figure out how best to serve the client. But one other theme that was really prevalent in the last couple of ABA tech shows, and I think it just was sort of overshadowed by AI, is the non-lawyer ownership of law firm and the paraprofessional, you know, that's sort of being opened up in other certain bars. And so that goes to someone's point about just sort of that access to justice. And I think in general, I think a lot of the lawyers are against it initially because they look at it as competition. But I think really this is sort of where life is shifting, and it's about being able to help represent people and provide the information they need and, you know, how better to serve them. But I know I just brought up a lot of different thoughts, but
well, I think one theme that I came away with also is that there doesn't have to be one shoe that fits every client, right? So when we think about just the point you brought up, I have clients that want to see me. They want the lawyer in the room. They don't want a legal assistant. They don't want to talk to any other administrative assistant. They want me on the phone. I think some of them would pay a premium that it be me on the phone, but others don't care. They're fine to talk to my associates. They're fine to talk to my paralegals. And so that was one thing we thought about in setting up systems is allowing for that, just like speed. There are some clients that would pay premium processing, just like our government allows for you to pay premium processing on some things. They would pay for premium processing, a higher flat fee if I'm going to file it within the next week. And so that was something that we talked about. And, to your point of caring for clients, one great exercise I was talking to a friend of mine that does personal injury law, and we were lamenting how hard it is to take care of clients over a really long period of time, years that it takes to close out his cases or mine. And we actually added a position on our firm, and it's a client relationship coordinator. And her only job is to take care of clients from start to finish. And it really has been helpful as we've automated things, because she kind of has helped us automate and figure out where to automate, while still having a point of contact, a person for the client as we go through some of those initial forays into that. And so that's another thing I thought a lot about, is that just like there isn't a tech stack for every single firm that's going to be identical, there's not, one path that's going to work for every single client.
I just think getting back to something that Ruby said, was that the professional independence of a lawyer is, sorry, I got something stuck in my throat, so I've got a little bit of hoarse. Those rules need to be lightened up. And I think that if you look at Utah and Arizona, where lawyers are able to form corporations with tech companies, it just opens lawyers up to do so much more. And so I think that maybe state bars, loosening up those rules a little bit. And then with respect to kind of where companies maybe should focus their business, it would be on the smaller firms, because I feel like large law firms are going to have the income to build out their own systems. And then the nonprofit world has a lot of grant money to assist, lower income, but it's going to be the middle class that really need the services, as well as the small firms. So making things easier for that demographic will be, I think, important.
Yeah, and I think those are really good points about what Arizona and Utah are doing, bringing other companies' business minds into it. Peter Drucker has a great assessment on an entrepreneur. A lot of people view entrepreneurs to be risk-focused and very risky. I think he says they're actually opportunity-focused. So what I've identified, and I almost quit law because I identify almost more as an entrepreneur than I do as a lawyer. And I think if you put it on a spectrum, you've got risk on one side, you've got opportunity on the other. The best lawyers are sitting on that risk side. They're assessing risk. They're spotting issues. That's what law school trains us for. That's what the profession trains us for. That's why the best businesses aren't going to their lawyers for business advice. They're going to assess risk, perhaps see issues, but and the best entrepreneurs are seizing those opportunities. They're seeing, the best entrepreneurs don't see risk. The best lawyers almost don't see opportunity. And so when you marry both of those minds, I think it's a customer who's going to benefit most, the person seeking legal services.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Dan Sullivan, or who was it that said we should see change as an opportunity? I don't know, maybe someone before him, but
yeah, Dan Sullivan's a big, because you've got that spectrum, you've got the risk opportunity spectrum, and I think the same, it's almost identical to the abundance and scarcity spectrum. When you're on that risk and issue spotting, you're in a mindset. When you're on the opportunity side, you're seeing the world more abundantly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. That's funny about almost quitting law because you felt more in line with being an entrepreneur. I feel that way a lot too, but I'm just trying to toggle between the two at the same time.
Well, I think if you can't figure out a way to take off one hat and put on another deliberately, you'll always be at war with yourself. And that's how I was. I heard of a really cool study recently where they were testing to see how people did at math problems. They gave the first session, they gave them a white lab coat and said, this belongs to a doctor. Then 2 weeks later, they came in and they said, this lab coat belongs to a painter. And the people who put on the doctor's lab coat actually did better because it was in their mind that they were wearing a smarter person's lab coat. And so I feel like And I've toiled with this, actually putting on a hat. This is my lawyer hat. Now I'm taking it off. I'm no longer the lawyer. I'm the marketer in this meeting. And I think you have to fill those roles with a lot more deliberately in order to perform them better.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And why I think it goes back to like how you should batch similar functions, like like I like to be a lawyer on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I like to be like a law firm owner on Tuesdays and Fridays. And I mean, I never really said it like that, but like the functions that I usually do. But I could see how that could be beneficial in the hat analogy, as well as like batching and the mindset.
We end up with friends who only wanted to hang out with us on Tuesdays.
I'm sort of breaking the mold by recording this on a Monday. I'm supposed to be a lawyer today.
Wait, we're on a month.
Well, I think this has been a great discussion. I think we've got to think about some of our closing thoughts. I mean, hopefully this was a good accidental advertisement commercial for ABA Tech Show in April 2025 in lovely Chicago. We'll hit you up, Elizabeth, when we're there again.
It will be better weather.
I heard it's going to be at the McCormick Center this time.
Yeah. They're changing locations. Yeah. But what's great is that you meet people and you connect and you talk with them throughout the year. You stay in touch over LinkedIn or have these little chats and, listen to each other's, podcasts or share podcasts and book ideas and, sort of keep that relationship going throughout the year and then reconnect again. So, I mean, if people listening have never been to ABA Tech Show, I'd say definitely make it a priority to go. I think it'll be really exciting, especially with just advent of AI just changing at warp speed and how that affects our practice. Well, why don't we just round robin big closing thoughts and how people can find you to stay in touch. Michele, you want to go first?
Sure. I guess my closing thought would be, don't be scared of AI. Explore it. Maybe invest in a closed-end system, and just be careful of the ethical issues of putting your client's data into a public domain. I don't do it, but still explore. And you want us to give our office contact information, or
I mean, what's a good way to connect? LinkedIn or?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay, great. Michele with one H for those who are listening.
Spelled the French way for a man. Anyway, thank you.
Well, I'm Elizabeth Rompf Bruenm, and you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, or hopefully our new launch of our website, drbimmigration.com, will be in the next month. We're very excited. And, for me, just echoing Ruby's thoughts and also some things that Beau said about, when you sometimes feel a little different because you do like the entrepreneurial side of this and you do like the technology side and you're looking for your people, ABA Tech is a great place to meet them, because everyone around you will be just as excited, but just as cautious, and it gives you a lot of great space to talk and discover. So please come to Chicago next year.
Just wanted to say my parting words too. I'm Charina Garcia. You can find me on LinkedIn. I also do some podcasts specifically on immigration law and why does it take so long to get a green card. So if you're ever interested in that, you can see our podcast there on LinkedIn Live. I think also just to kind of echo, really don't be afraid to change. Like really look at the way you've been doing things. And I always say to my team and my staff, if we're still doing it the same way 2 years ago, then we're not growing and changing and improving. So don't be afraid to innovate. And I think the ABA Expo Hall is a great place to see all these great innovations going around and to also manage your anxieties about change, right? Because you'll see other people there who've actually gone through it, and you can talk to them and they could tell you all the pain points they went through, and you could learn from them. So thanks for having me on, Ruby. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Great.
Yeah, and to sort of mirror some of those comments and plug the ABA Tech Show, at the very least, get an Expo Pass. At least this year, they were free. It costs you nothing to get an Expo Pass. Hopefully that's the same next year. Chicago's an amazing city. So I think you'll get so much benefit just by connecting, like you were saying, Ruby, with so many people and seeing what's there, getting exposed to it. Michele, like you were saying, there's a lot of ethical issues. You'll come face to face with that and see what other people are doing with that. So huge proponent of going to Tech Show and just seeing what's there. For myself, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So that's probably the best way to find me. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And it was great to meet everybody. Sad that we never all met in person at Tech Show, but there's 2025.
And it's moving to the south side of the city. The pizza's even better there. So
Oh, wow.
You're all invited.
Well, it was great to have you all. Thanks for hopping on. I know we're all busy business lawyer running law firms and everything. And, I think that's what's so intriguing about ABA Tech Show is like you bring in your tech side, you bring in the customer service, client service, there's the law, there's the ethics, there's, and like what you said, Elizabeth, like you find your people. I mean, yeah, that's what was so awesome about just having these like crazy, amazing conversations just in between panels in an expo hall or at events and just doing deep dives like we're doing right now. Like it just was easy because we were all like sort of very similarly interested. And it sort of takes a little bit of curating to create these types of opportunities outside of the tech show. But I think one thing I heard recently on one of the podcasts I recorded was like just a practical sense is that we need to make time to evaluate what's going on in technology and how we can better serve our clients. So just like I like to say a lot, like we need to work on the business instead of in the business. I think purposely we should block off some time to work on evaluating what's happening in AI, working with our software, our legal tech, like you were doing, Beau, talking to them at the expo hall. And then just like Elizabeth and Charina, we're all sort of echoing, like, how can we best serve our clients, like keeping those key points in mind, because I think that's ultimately what we need to take away. And then to the whole entrepreneurial mindset, like how can we better, serve our clients and run a more efficient and profitable law firm. I think all of those things are consideration, which is why I feel like I came away more overwhelmed than anything. And I think having this discussion is helping me sort of debrief and sort of organize my thoughts that have been just all jumbled around, but definitely a lot of excitement. So, we'll put all your contact information in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This has been an insightful journey, and your time and engagement means the world to us. If you've joined this episode and want to continue the conversation, feel free to connect at Proud Your Practice Facebook group, and stay tuned for information about more episodes and a book coming out soon. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining. Feeling overwhelmed by admin tasks? You're not alone. Many immigration lawyers are in the same boat. That's where Staffy comes in. Over 90 law firm owners just like you have turned to Staffy for help with legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work. Now, Staffy's mission: to help lawyers find balance while growing their firm. With bilingual virtual staff and full HR support, they take the hassle out of a team management and focus on what matters most, your clients and your practice. I've personally benefited from Staffy's support with 7 virtual assistants of my own across various areas of 2 of my businesses, including my law firm. Now, schedule a free initial consultation with Staffy. That's stafi.cc and use the code RUBY. That's RUBY for $500 off. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. Join us next week for another episode where we'll continue to explore insightful strategies for success. Power Up Your Practice with us. See you next time.